Diane in Denmark here. I'm just starting to make dinner for the family, and it's one of those dishes, you've heard it all before. It's not really a kind of recipe as such, it's just an assembly of ingredients, and it's a Swedish recipe that I discovered when we first bought our Swedish Summerhouse. You know, we have this summer cabin which is an hour's drive from here in Denmark. We go over the bridge. And I saw it in a magazine, and it's one of those things, you know, you see this new really easy recipe and you try and it's fantastic, and then you go a bit overboard and you're kind of making it every week, and then we all are like, oh, not this one again, Mum. And I was reminded about it because when we're in the summer house last weekend over Easter, I actually found the magazine because I keep like the Easter edition and the Christmas edition just to look at when we're over there. And I saw it and I thought, you know what, I haven't made that for a long time. Anyway, I'll get my opinion on, but it's going to be based on, it's called Lingongryta, which is made with lingonberry jam. That's going to be one of the main ingredients of it. So anyway, I'll get my hands washed, my opinion on, and let's get started. Okay, hands washed. Penny on, ready, steady cook. Now, I'm making an Instant Pot today. Normally I would just make it on a pot in front, you know, on the stove, or even pop it in the oven. I'm just doing that because it's easier for me to show you. You know, I don't have fancy tricks for filming, and you're not going to get music in the background and me doing that fast thing. So it's just you and me here in my kitchen. And I'm using pork tenderloin. Now, you can use anything for this recipe. The original recipe, Lingongryta, is traditionally, at least in Sweden, made with, let me see, pork tenderloin is quite expensive, but I got this cheap at the supermarket because it's always on offer for high days and holidays. So that's why I bought this. But you could use any kind of pork for it. And I quite like the pork tenderloin because it's a really lean meat, and this cooks very fast. You don't want to overcook pork tenderloin. But in Swedish they would use any kind of fläsk, and pork tenderloin is called fläskfilé. That's one of the first things that you learn when you're learning a new language, are all the different cuts of meat, because it's called something completely different in Danish. This is called mørblad, that's the name of it in Danish. Anyway, I'm just taking off the obvious bits of fat. Here we go. Because we don't want any of the kind of whitey bits. Right, okay, it goes in the bin. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to chop it into little bits. And normally what I do with beef tenderloin is I chop it like into a fillet. You know, if you can also fry these individually and do a kind of fancy dish with it. But normally I chop them as if I was doing little medallions, and I just chop those into 3 or 4. And I'm going to fry them off. Let me just get it started. I'm on the saute function on the crock pot, but you know, you can just use an ordinary pot on the top of the hob. And you could use something like chicken for this, but I think it goes really well with the more kind of earthy flavours, because we're going to be adding that lingonberry jam and a lot of cream. Here we go again with the cream. And often you'd see this Lingongryta, it starts doing the rounds in the cookery magazines when we get to the autumn and people are looking for something warm and comforting. But as I said, I haven't made this for so long because it kind of came out of circulation because I'd kind of overdone it a bit. Right, I've got my meat. Oh, hold on, that one needs sliced as well. So I should be concentrating instead of talking. Anyway, okay, so I've got small pieces of meat. And I'm just going to quickly, oh, I'll make that a bit smaller. I'm just going to fry them off quickly. And, you know, if you were using chicken, you wouldn't even really need to fry it off. There we go. Hold on. You can hear it sizzling. I tell you what, I'll get all those in and then I'll wash my hands and then I can tell you about the next stage. Let me do that with my non-messy hand. Okay, I've got it cooking here, and I've also gone ahead and washed them. You know, I like to pooper as I go along, pick up and put away whenever I'm cooking. And then let me just grab a plate to go under, so I'm not making a mess of the worktop. Right, now comes the fun part where we just add in everything else and then we're going to let it cook. Now, normally I start off by adding just a tablespoon of flour. You don't have to do that, it's just going to make the sauce a bit thicker, it's going to thicken up the sauce. You could also do it at the end and add some corn flour, but this works for me. So I'm doing a good heaped tablespoon of flour. And that goes in, and I give it a wee mix round before I add the other things. There we are. Right, and here comes the yummy part. Right, that's my flour. Put that out of the way, so don't forget anything. A wee bit of salt and pepper. Remember my ones that light up and sound like Star Wars? Okay, a good lot of pepper. I really like a lot of pepper. And then some salt. Oh, and it sounds like my salt is on its last legs. I think I'm going to have to change the batteries in that one. Last time it was anti-procrastination day, I was changing batteries in the pepper one. Okay, there's enough there, right, so salt and pepper. And, hold on, let me give it a wee stir before the flour goes completely nuts. Then I'm going to add in cream. Now this is like 1 cup of cream, 250 mils, 250 millilitres. I'm going to add that. Now you can see why I like it, don't you? Cream, have you seen that before? Everything I make is full of cream and butter and right. We eat healthy most of the time. Right, I've got the cream in, and we're not wanting it too kind of sweet. If you have some kind of stock, you know, that you can pour in, you know, one of those really concentrated stuffs. I always buy stock cubes, so I'm just going to crumble in a stock cube. And it doesn't really matter if it's beef, chicken, vegetable stock, just whatever you have. You could also make this as a vegetarian dish. Oh, I was just thinking, was there a fire outside? It's because the wind is blowing and there's so much pollen in the trees. Anyway, sidetrack there. Right, I'm just going to wash my hands because I'm all covered in stock cube. Pop that away from the bin. Yeah, where did I get to? So I've put in, we've got our pork in there, and the bit of flour, salt and pepper, the cream. And then the last two things that are going to go in is some soy sauce, as Mrs. Mears would say. And I'm putting in about a teaspoon to a teaspoon and a half. You know, it really depends on what kind of soy sauce you have. If it's low sodium, low salt, just give that a wee mix round. And you'll see it's gone slightly darker. Oh, can I do that without spilling the whole thing? Because of the soy sauce. And then the last thing that I'm going to add, main ingredient, hold on, did I mention it? Yeah, the cream. It was 1 cup, 250 mils, and in Denmark we buy it in ½ litre or ¼ litre. So if you're in Denmark, you just need one of the ¼ litre ones. But we use a lot of cream in this family. Right, okay, now you can hear it's kind of starting to bubble a bit. And I'm just going to put it on to, I'll just turn it on to the slow cook function, because that will do. Because I don't want to burn it while I'm talking to you. Right, and the last thing, the main thing that gives it its name, Lingongryta. Lingongryta means lingonberry stew, you know, or gryta means, you know, a kind of pot. And in Danish you would call it Lingongryta. Gryta is the name for you know, a pot, a casserole dish. And we're going to add in, or I'm going to add in, if you're making it, go ahead and add it. 100 millilitres of the Lingonberry jam. Now, Lingonberry jam is hugely popular in Sweden, and I'll tell you what 100 millilitres would be. That would be roughly, let me see, about a third to a half cup of Lingonberry jam. I'm going to add that in. Hold on, let me get that in. This one. And then I would suggest that you taste it yourself and see if you want to add a bit more jam. Because the Lingonberry jam, it is sweet, and I quite like sweetness in a meat dish. But it's also quite tart, so it's not overly sweet, but it goes really well with the cream. Right, hold on. Let's see if I can show it to you without knocking over the whole kitchen. And if it does, I'll just need to make a video sometime with all the bloopers from these ones. But you know, normally I just make them in one go, these videos, so whatever happens, happens. Okay, can you see it now? It's already smelling great. Now I'm just going to quickly taste this to see. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let this cook gently for, I would say, 20 to 30 minutes should do it, because you've already browned the meat, and then it's going to be cooking in the cream, you know, and a bit of the stock. Oh, that's good. It's been too long since we've had this. But just if you make it and enjoy it, don't go overboard, please, with the family. Let me just see if I can give you a better close-up. And I won't bother doing a picture of what it looks like at the end, because I mean it just looks the same at the end. It will cook down slightly. I'm going to leave that to one side. And actually I'm going to switch off the heat just now, because I want to have it fresh for the family. But what are you going to serve it with? Well, often in Sweden you would see something like this served with more lingonberries, you know, fresh lingonberries on the side. And you can have it with boiled, you know, white potatoes. You can also have it with some mashed potato. That's also a very common way to serve it. And remember, you don't have to go making everything from scratch. You know, for a weekday meal, go ahead, there's some good mashed potato on the market. It's not all, you know, stuff that you found in the corner of the room and mixed up with water and wallpaper paste. If you look for the ones which are actually made from potato, those are fine, and that actually goes really well, so we might be having it with that tonight. Also, you could serve some pickled beetroot on the side, because that's what we will be doing, because I eat so much pickled beetroot. Unlike my granny, she loved pickled beetroot, and I'm sure I've mentioned this in a video before, but when she was about 3 or 4 years old, her mum, my great granny, had pickled, you know, they pickled everything themselves in those days, and my great granny had gone off, you know, to do something, and the pickles were just cooling down, and she came back and there was my granny sitting with this bowl in front of her, and both hands in the bowl, eating the pickled beetroot. So anyway, we'll probably be having it with pickled beetroot and mashed potato tonight. But go ahead, if you've got any ideas of what you might serve it with, let me know down in the comments. It would be also quite nice. You could add something else to it. Let me just grab it from the fridge. And this would kind of turn it more Danish style. Is some little, you know, these little cocktail sausages, you know, the ones that are, you know, a kind of guilty pleasure of a lot of us. These are actually organic ones, so they are, they've got no weird E numbers in them, and they're actually made from chicken. Anyway, you could add some little cocktail sausages to jazz it up a bit. And another thing that the Danes would do if they were making this type of thing, because I'll maybe do it another time, is a thing called Flylady, which is from the area of Frederiksberg in Copenhagen, and they make a kind of similar thing with the beef tenderloin, not with the Lingon jam. That's a very, you can see there, a very Swedish thing. There's a Swedish flag on it. We bought this at the supermarket in Sweden. And just a little aside, if you're having difficulty finding Lingonberry jam, IKEA normally has it. But anyway, back to the Flylady. The Danes have a similar recipe, and it's made with a lot of paprika and tomato ketchup or tomato paste and cream, little sausages, bits of bacon and mushroom, and that is delicious too. Anyway, I'm going to do a pupa here, and I will finish cooking this before we have it for dinner. It's only going to take you like another 10 or 15 minutes to cook through. In fact, I might just finish cooking it now and reheat it. And anyway, let me get it right. Live long and prosper. May the Danish and Swedish hygge be with you. In Swedish, they always say it's mysig. Everything is mysig in Sweden. So kind of the equivalent of hygge. Anyway, and I shall see you very soon. And all that's left to say is velbekomme, which means enjoy your meal. Okay, see you very soon.